Well, you and I go way back, and I tell people a lot that really some of the fondest memories that I have as a kid are playing Little League Baseball in Jasper. So for you, what made that time so special for you?
Well, one, like you said, the friendships you built through Little League Baseball and baseball in general, no matter how far you go, some of my best friends still today are guys I've played either Little League with, played in high school with, or in college with. We touch base, we talk, and we might not see each other all the time, but we're at least contacting. And the biggest thing is every time we make contact with each other, we always have a story to tell.
Yeah, oh,
Whether it's a
absolutely.
good one, bad one. Some of them are very funny. Some we can't talk about. But that's the biggest thing is the camaraderie it builds, and you always have something that ties you together.
Yeah. Where did you grow up playing? I just remember the first time I played, that first league was at West End Field in West Jasper, and I don't even know if you can get up to that field anymore.
Right, yeah.
Where did you grow up playing?
I grew up playing in Sipsey. Just lived right down the road. Which in Sipsey, everybody lives right down the road from the park, and we grew up playing there. And sort of how it was we had our team in Sipsey. There was teams all over the county at that time, and then every now and then we would play teams from Jasper, and we competed against each other several years before we actually started playing together. We sort of, at Sipsey, we morphed into let's morph everybody sort of together and try to get our better players together, and that's sort of how it come from. Most of our guys from Sipsey, we started playing in Jasper as we got a little bit older.
Yeah.
But as far as like Little League and T-ball and stuff like that, played at Sipsey probably through, I'd say about 9 or 10, and then we started morphing and sort of, we figured out, hey, I'm going to go to Walker High School, so I might want to start playing with those guys and get to know them a little bit better.
You know, there's a couple things that I remember. One is that field at Sipsey, the center field was like 450.
Yes.
And then the other thing that I think about when I think about playing out in the county is, and even outside of the county, like if you went to Lynn, you were going to get beat. I mean, you had Michael Lee and Todd Tittle and those guys they're probably throwing 80 back then.
Yeah,
you know?
it seemed like it.
So when I think about, the competition out in the county, it was pretty stiff.
It was very, very competitive.
Yeah.
And being honest, for me being a baseball coach in this county now, 21 years, some of that's been lost as far as the competitiveness when you go around the whole county, including our city also. And part of that's due to people have changed. The game has changed as far as where they play it. Not many counties, not many cities host many things anymore. It's more towards the travel ball, where people are getting out, doing their own thing. You might be playing from guys from Gardendale. You might be playing from guys from Huntsville.
Yeah.
And then once you come back to your school league, that's when you're back with your guys here. So that has changed, and I don't know if that's for good or bad.
Yeah.
I still like the old community where you get there, and my better teams that I've ever had here are guys that grew up playing together. They know each other. They're familiar with each other. They love each other because they've been around each other for so long.
And maybe I look at things through rose-colored glasses, but it seemed like it was a bigger deal back then. I mean, you had the your picture was going to be made. You're going to be in that Little League edition of the Daily Mountain Eagle. I mean, that was when you were a kid. Like that was a big deal, and I can remember every year, what team I was playing on, and then you had some corporate sponsors. You and I've talked about this before. I mean, one year we were Shoney's, another year we were Kentucky Fried Chicken. So that kind of added a little bit of an element to it too.
It did. It got the community more involved. But like I said, the biggest thing is like we knew when we played Lynn, you better you got to beat Todd Tittle. And good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
At their place.
At their place. Right. Usually with the umpire had just come out of the stands and called the game because we didn't have just umpire. I mean, it's just anybody in the community called the game. So that played a big part in it also.
You weren't going to get any calls up there.
Home cooking, definitely.
Yeah. Well, let's move on from Little League. I want to kind of walk through your career, and you graduated at Walker in '96, right?
Yes.
Okay, take us through from when you graduated at Walker to when you became the Walker head baseball coach.
Okay. Once I graduated, I played my first year at Bevel State, actually Summerton at that time. They still had a team at that time. After 1 year at Bevel Summerton, had an opportunity at that time, and it's still today, there's D2 and D1 junior colleges. I had a chance to go to a D1 junior college where Bevel was a D2, and it was sort of a better opportunity to play against a little bit better competition. So I transferred to Northwest Shoals Community College, played a year there, and then after I finished 1 year there, had the opportunity to go play at the University of Alabama, Huntsville. Finished my 2 years playing there, and that, you sort of know when it's sort of the end of your career. That was sort of my peak, my pinnacle as far as playing days were over, and had that feeling sort of going into my senior year. You know, this is it. You better be figuring out what you want to do with the rest of your life. And baseball had been a part of my life for forever. That's really ever since I was 4 years old. I was doing something at the field, and even if I wasn't at the field, me and my brother or the people in the community, we were out in the yard playing wiffle ball, just doing all sorts of things outside, and it always had a ball involved in it. So I knew, you know, pretty much early on that I wanted to be involved with something with a ball, because I just loved being outside, loved playing athletics. But I gravitated more towards baseball because I think baseball is a game of failure, and it's how do you deal with those failures. And to me, it's, every coach can say, you know, they can relate things to life with their sport, because every sport has something they can relate. But baseball to me is, how do you deal with that failure, and how do you deal when things don't go your way? Do you take your ball and go home, or do you get back at work and see what I can do to get better the next day? And that sort of gravitated me towards baseball and my love for the game, because I'd done it for so long, and I knew that this was going to be something, if possible, that I really, really wanted to do. So after I finished, I started actually up there with the American Legion in Huntsville. Me and a couple guys who are still coaching today, Brad Phillips, who's at Hartselle, Ryan Hall, who's at Oakman, a guy named Larry Lawson, who was in the coaching for a little bit while. We all started coaching with the American Legions in Huntsville, because that's where we all graduated from. And it just led from there. Really enjoyed it, really liked what we did. And then it was like, you know, maybe I really want to do this full time. So then after we did a summer of the American Legion, and a couple other, at that time, what you would consider travel teams, our coach at UAH had sort of, me and Ryan Hall, he had told us, he said, look, we've got a bunch of guys we've signed that are freshmen. We'd like for y'all to coach them in the summer. So one summer we coached them. It was every incoming freshman pretty much that was going to UAH. And that really got our fire going and got us going with it. And from there, I still had a little bit of school left after I finished my playing days. And as I was finishing all my school, my student teaching and everything, Butler High School at that time, a guy by the name of Al Rawls, who's a legendary coach in Huntsville, needed an assistant. And he hired me to be his assistant. And that was where I got my first start. And honestly, it was probably one of the best moves I ever took. It was at that time, Butler was more of a inner city school. Those kids didn't really understand baseball at all. He put me in charge of the 9th grade, and I remember we go out there and we had like 40 kids come for tryouts. And I'm gung-ho. I just coached basically a college baseball team that summer. And I'm like, Coach, these guys can't play. What? We're going to cut them off. I ain't got nobody to coach. He said, we're keeping every one of them. And what I really didn't understand at that point, and he was an old veteran, had been in it a while, he said, all these kids need us a lot more than we need them. And so as the season progressed, we kept all 40. And I can remember today, the very first game I ever coached as a 9th grade coach. We played Hazel Green, who was a very good established baseball program. And in the 9th grade game, they beat us 20-0 the first game. It took it easy. They took it easy. Like, I had to teach those guys, hey, this is a baseball. This is the rubber. We had to start over just like it was Little League. And we played them the first game of the year, and we played them the last game of the year. And the last game of the year, they beat us 2-1 on a suicide squeeze. and it just showed the improvement.
Yeah.
And Al taught me, what he taught me was, don't ever give up on the kid.
Yeah.
Don't matter where they are, let's try to progress them and get them moving forward.
Yeah.
And some's going to stick with it. Some's going to get better. Some are going to fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to put in the work.
Yeah.
And that was a big, huge lesson. And the thing I got from it was, one, don't give up on a kid. And it don't matter where we are at the start, we want to be better at the finish.
Yeah. Yeah. And then how'd you get to Walker from there?
From there, I stayed a year there, and then a spot came open at Bob Jones High School, and I took a spot there with Lee Gann, who's now the head baseball coach at Mountain Brook, and they had just come off of they got beat runner-up in the state championship the year before, and I come in, took over as the top assistant with him. And we had a very, very, very successful two-year run there. And then you think you really know what you want to do. Boy, we went there. We was like number 1 in the state, number 24 in the country. First year there, we was very successful. The second year, I've got it figured out. Just finished playing college baseball. I know more than everybody around.
Mid-20s.
Yeah. You know it all.
Right.
I thought I did. And I was very hungry to be a head coach. Thought I was really ready to run my own program. And so I started putting fillers out, and just so happened, Lee got offered the Mountain Brook job and took that job. He offered me to come with him, but I wanted to be, at that time, I knew Bob Jones was open. Hey, I want to be the head coach at Bob Jones. But actually, I talked with the principal there, and he told me, he said, you're not ready. He saw that I wasn't ready. He said, but we want you to stay here and be our assistant. And matter of fact, they hired Al Rawls from Butler, who I'd already worked with previously. So I stayed there one more year with Al, and then I get a phone call from, at that time, our athletic director and defense coordinator, Roger Satcher, here at Walker, who had actually coached me. He came in when Bubba Davis came in as the football coach my senior year, and Roger was for the outside linebackers and D-line coach, and that's sort of, I played outside linebacker and inside, so I'd worked under him, or he had coached me, and we had a good relationship from that, and he sort of just, he laid it out there and said, hey, we've got a guy who's been here a long time, and Coach Sasser, John Sasser, he's getting out. And we're looking to replace him, and we'd like to sit down and talk with you and see if you're interested. I was a little skeptical to begin with, one, coming back home. But I'd been gone long enough that I really, honestly, the only person at that point, as far as the parents or anybody I had sort of a relationship with, that time was Tommy Knight, who was a longtime Park and Rec director.
Back to the Park and Rec.
Back to our Park and Rec, and coached us at some point. I can't remember the years, but I know Tommy coached us at some point because he coached every kid in Jasper just about at some point through their career when he was doing Park and Rec. And I, once going back, I thought I was ready. And I've said this through the years. I probably came in that first year, gung-ho. I knew more than everybody in Jasper and this, that, and other. And if I had it to do all over again, I'd change some things. And some of that's me reflecting on myself and reflecting back to how when I say treated, I demanded so much from those guys that they couldn't give me what I was demanding of them. And that's one thing I've learned through the years is how to give and take. At that time, it was me telling them this is how it's going to be. And so sometimes you just got to sit back and you got to listen to your kids and see what they really want, what they really need. And that's one of the biggest things I've learned. And I've been here now, I think this is my 21st season. I get asked that a lot, how long you've been here. I think I don't keep up with those things, and I don't keep up with records. Our athletic director, Jonathan Jordan, asked me the other day, he said, how many wins you got? I said, more than we do losses.
Yeah.
I said, honestly, I can remember the bad years. I don't remember many of the good years as far as records. I can remember. It's like I told him, I said, I can tell you this. I can tell you my first year record here was 10-28. He goes, okay. I said, next year was 15-21. And I said, and then we've been on a ton of years where we won 20 to 25. So I don't know how many we won. Now, these last few years, we've been in a little bit of a downfall the last few years. We're hoping that it picks up here in a few more years. We got a pretty good core, good group of young guys coming up, and we hope they grow and develop and get us back to where we want to be a team that's a 20-plus win team and having our name in the mix when it's all said and done.
You know, baseball can get in your blood, you know, and you go back to Little League in Jasper and you know, we had dirt fields and just being out there in the natural grass and the dirt. You got turf now, but it's still the same game. You know, it's still the same. So for you, what is it about being a baseball coach that really just stirs you?
Just seeing the guys get out there and the ones who have the passion and love for it, and they're playing the game for the right reasons. It's for that love for the game, for the passion, and to see a guy who may not be as talented as other kids work his tail off and become a baseball player. It's what I always tell them. I said, there's talented players, and those guys, you can see them a mile away when you get to the park, who's got the most talent. But the teams that have those guys that when the game's over with, you as a coaching staff, you look back and say, how did that guy get us out on the mound? How did that guy get the game-winning hit against us? Or how did our guy? And then it goes back to, well, how many hours has that sucker put in the cage? How many extra hours he said, hey, coach, I need some extra ground balls. He wasn't our most talented guy, maybe, but he worked his butt off to become a good high school baseball player. And to me, the thing with that and what I try to get across to our players is that's a work ethic that you'll take with you the rest of your life, no matter what profession you're going to do. If you can be that guy who shows up every day to work and is always striving, our sort of thing is we tell them we want you to get 1% better every day. If you can do that in your profession, you're going to be a great husband. You're going to provide for your family and all those things. And that's when it's all said and done. The likelihood of anybody playing into big leagues is very slim and none. But everybody's more than likely going to have a job or be a husband or a father.
But there's something about being outside, being in the dugout, the smell of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, it just appeals to all the senses too.
Yes.
It's part of being a baseball coach.
And I'm a purist. Now, I do love our turf field. Gosh, I love it. But it is a little different. Can't have sunflower seeds out there, no gum.
I know that firsthand.
Yes. You know, we had to do away with peanuts, selling peanuts, because you don't want those shells out on the thing.
Honestly, I was surprised when you went to turf. I mean, being old school like you are, you know, that was a little bit surprising.
Very, very thankful because it saves us a ton of time where we can, instead of taking an hour a day working on the field, that's an hour a day we can get ground balls, or we can do other things to make us better. And it also prevents rainouts, so many other things. It's a blessing to have it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I want to talk nuts and bolts. I mean, you know, I want to learn, honestly, with this, I want to learn from you because you know, as you know, I've got a 6-year-old who's playing ball right now. I'm his head coach and, you know, I'm still learning the game and trying to understand, but let's talk nuts and bolts of baseball for just a minute. And I want to start with hitting. You know, what is your philosophy in terms of hitting at the high school level? And, you know, what do you teach your players about how to approach hitting?
Okay. I'm not going to get into the mechanical side because that's just way too much.
Yeah.
But sort of just in general, our approach is we tell our guys there's two things. There's either your at bat or our at bat. And your at bat means 0 or 1 strike on you. 0 or 1 strike, you're looking for your pitch. Whatever pitch you know you can swing at, and if you swing at it, you're not going to miss and you're going to hit it hard. Now, once you get 2 strikes, then it becomes our pitch. And when I mean ours, we're talking about our team. You got to shorten up. You got to put it in play. You got to do whatever to help the team. Okay, that's our general approach. Now, there's also situational hitting that comes in. We got a guy at third, no out, 1 out. The infield's back. All we got to do is hit it to the shortstop or second baseman, pass the pitcher, we score him. then that becomes our at bat. And that we try to keep it simple. I learned a long time from a head coach. He said, use the KISS method as much as you can, which is keep it simple, stupid. And that's what we do. When it's yours, turn it loose on your pitch and get after it. When it's ours, let's do what we got to do for the team. And situational hitting comes in that. One thing that's changed in the game big time is the lack of bunting or and the lack of skill to do it. I don't really know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Gorilla Ball started with LSU and Skip Burtman, and it sort of has just snowballed and gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. I do think there's going to be a shift pretty soon. It's going to go back to guys that can really place the ball and bunt the ball, and the same way on the mound. The biggest thing on the mound is velo, velo, velo. Well, it don't do you any good to throw 94 and it's ball four. We want guys that can pound the zone and give us strikes. But that's our biggest thing with hitting. And another thing I always tell our guys, the best two-strike approach is don't get there. Don't let the guy get you to two strikes. Because nobody can ever tell you, man, I was a great two-strike hitter. No, because you're always on the defense instead of on the offense. And that's what we want them to learn. When it's our offense, that's what we want. We want to be offensive. We don't want to be defensive.
What about taking the first pitch? I mean, is that something that is kind of situational?
Situational, that's not me. I can probably name on, like I said, 20-something years, how many times I've really give and take. Obviously, the old school of 3-0, but we give green lights on 3-0 sometimes, especially if a guy's hot and we got guys in scoring position, because it could be the best hit and the best pitch and the only pitch he gets in his entire game to help our team. That has changed. We sort of classify our hitters. We got guys that we want to be pounding the ball in the gaps, and we have guys that we want to be getting on base. We want those guys to be a little more patient. We want our leadoff hitter to be a guy that can get some depth in the count. So hopefully after our first at bat, we've seen every pitch that guy's going to throw at us for the day, and we try to use every at bat, every time we see something from a pitcher, as a chance for us to learn and see what he's doing and how he's trying to get guys out.
It seems like if a pitcher knows that a batter is going to be aggressive and may swing on the first pitch, they may not throw it right down the pipe.
Right.
And so now if you don't swing, or you may get ahead in the count if you're a batter.
Right.
But if they know you're going to take on that first pitch, they may throw it right down the pipe.
Yeah.
I'm not a hitting coach, but it just seems like taking a more aggressive approach can be to a hitter's benefit.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it's a mindset.
Yeah.
Nobody plays this game to go up there and take.
Yeah.
Hey coach, thanks for giving me a take. That was a fun at bat.
Right.
I just stood there. But that's what we sort of use the yes, yes, no. And what that sort of means is every time that guy lifts his leg to throw us a pitch, yes, I'm hitting it, yes, yes, yes. And then no means I'm slamming on the brakes, but I'm going to hit every pitch. And then once I recognize it's a ball that I can't hit, I want to slam on the brakes.
We've talked about this a lot, in the major leagues, and you kind of touched on it a second ago, is a lot of it is so feast or famine. Strikeouts are up, home run is people are focused on that. But it's important to put the ball in play, and you mentioned that about bunting, the small ball. Are we making that turn back to that, and how much of a challenge does that present for your guys?
I believe we are. You got to look at those guys in the big leagues. They're the best. They're the top 1% in what they do. So to sometimes take that philosophy to little league and even to high school and even some college programs is not very conducive. Do we want to play for the big inning? Yes, because usually if you'll look at a scoreboard, if it's a 9-inning scoreboard and it's got every number across it, when the game's over, if you'll look, there was one inning that whoever won the game scored more runs in that one inning than the entire board. So you play for a big inning, and you don't want to give up outs by sometimes with a bunt. And that's really, our bunting's more of we're trying to bunt for hits. We want to bunt for a hit, place the ball where it can be tough on the defense and put pressure on the defense. And then at times, late in game, situational, do we want to sack a guy over? Yes. But the biggest thing, a challenge for me is guys just don't do it before they get to us. And so when we're talking about bunting, it's like it's something foreign to them, and they just don't feel comfortable doing it. So you got to decide as a coach, is it worth us spending a lot of time on this, or let's take what he can do and try to make that better? And it's what's right and wrong, who knows? Each kid's a little different. Some buy into it, some really don't. If they don't buy in, you're never going to get there with them.
Let's talk pitching for a minute. You take a young pitcher, maybe who's starting to develop. How do you get them to the next level? Is it something that you're always trying to kind of improve their pitch arsenal? What do you do to take a young pitcher and make him a great pitcher at the high school level?
A few things. I think the biggest thing is they've got to throw, and they've got to throw a lot. And learn, the more they throw, the better they get feel. We want pitchers pitching off of feel, not off mechanics, because mechanics can go wrong. And there's a lot of, you talk to 10 different people, and 10 different people tell you something about mechanics. But if a guy can feel what he's done wrong, then he can correct it. And I think guys don't throw enough, so they don't really understand. And you'll say, did you feel what you did wrong? Nah, coach, I didn't feel it. Well, when you get to where you can feel it, then we can correct it. And then I'll have some guys, and it might take a year, it might take 2 years, it might take till their senior year, finally go, I understand what you're saying now. Now I know how to fix that, basically because I've thrown. We throw a lot in the off season and the preseason, because we want guys to get a feel for where their release point is, if they're working on their arsenal. We do. We give our guys a lot of freedom. I want them to have ownership in what they're doing. And so we'll let them tinker with some things. Now, we might give suggestions like, you really want to throw that? Well, here's what it's really doing. In your mind, you think it's doing this, but here's reality. It's not doing what you think it's doing. So sometimes we'll say, hey, let's can that. We might, if a guy's a sophomore and working on something, we'll look at that again in the off season, see if we can get it better. But for right now, we're in season, buddy. Let's can that. Let's go. This pitch works. This pitch works. Let's try to win with those. But that's the biggest thing is learning how to feel what you're doing, throwing the ball. And it goes back to me, there's a lot of different ways to do this. There's weighted balls, there's this, there's that. My thing on weighted balls, I think a guy, once he's structurally sound and very, very physically mature, that can be a thing that can help them. A 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, sometimes even 11th grader, they're not there yet. We use weighted balls more for prevention, more for wake up, warm up to get your body moving, and instead of trying to say, let's rear back and throw it as hard as we can. Well, do we do some of that? Yes, but it's in a controlled environment. The biggest thing to me is just get out in the yard when you're young, as you're growing up, and throw it hard. And then eventually, once I get my arm strength up, then try to go to, there's a target. Let me try to throw it hard to that target. I think the biggest thing that's a misnomer is people want to say, well, I want Al here pitching for me because he throws a lot of strikes when you're 7 and 8 years old, but you're just lobbing it in there. You're not doing yourself any good later on in life. You might be the stud at 7 and 8, but when you're 16 and you're throwing the same speed as you was 7 and 8, you're not any good anymore. And that's the biggest thing is sometimes telling the kid to turn it loose, and buddy, it don't matter where it goes. You're building arm strength for later on in life. If this is what you want to do, if you want to be the best you can be at the highest level that you can possibly play at, you got to develop those skills. And the only way to do it is to turn it loose. It's the same way with swinging. If you don't swing hard, you're not going to ever get bat speed. And those things are important.
Are most high school kids a 2-pitch pitcher?
Most. Every now and then, when you run across a guy with 3, you've lost. He's beat you that day. Most of the time, a guy that's filling it up with 2, it's going to be a tough ball game. If you can eliminate it down to 1, that's when you got a real good chance to wearing that other team out.
You've got so many pitches now. I mean, going back to the major leagues, I mean, there's pitchers that are 4 and 5 pitch pitchers, but at the high school level, are you trying to add that second and third pitch?
We want to see what they can do. We look at guys' arm slots because an arm slot can determine what your pitch does, whether you're 12-6, whether you're this, whether you're slur, slider, sweeper, cutters, change up. There's so many other different things. There's ways you can hold the ball now to make it do other things. It's just advanced so much. But you also, I want to go back to, you want to keep it simple, stupid. If a guy's got something he can do good, you let him do it. And you try to build off of that and make that better. And then say, this is what you're good at. Let's get another pitch that sort of mirrors it. That way, to the hitter's eye, it looks the same. And then all of a sudden it gets up there and it goes this way instead of that way. And that's when you become a dude. It's like we've got a little guy right now. He's pitched his tail off for us. And just the same thing. It's one of them, when the game's over, the other team's scratching their head going, how did he just carve us up? Well, it's real simple. He throws a fastball for a strike whenever he wants to, and he throws a changeup for a strike whenever he wants to. And most of the time, he's going to spin his breaking ball in there for a strike.
And
so that guy don't know what's coming, and it's all different speeds, and it's all going different ways. But he don't wow you with his velo. He just pitches. And that on the flip side, we got some guys that can throw harder, but we can't get them to understand that part of it, that all pitching is disrupting timing to the hitter.
And strategy. It's a mental thing. There's so many major leaguers now that are having Tommy John. It seems like that is much more frequent now than it was, say, 20 years ago. What do you think is the cause of that? And there's a philosophy that, going back to what you said, that pitchers aren't throwing enough. They're throwing less, and that may have something to do with it. Obviously, the increase in velo may have something to do with it as well. But from your standpoint, what are your thoughts about that? From
my standpoint, and like I said, I look at it a little different. I don't think guys throw enough. I think it's been the wussification of baseball. Is we get these big rotations in the big leagues. Guy they don't go over 5 innings anymore. Then you got a 6-inning guy, 7th-inning guy, 8th-inning guy. You have all these specialists, and they're great. They are good at what they do. But there is something to people throwing a lot. Guys who run, they don't get good at running by sitting at home by not running. You don't get good at throwing by not throwing. And I believe the arm is just like the legs. If I'm trying to run a marathon, I've got to get my body and my legs and everything in shape. If I'm going to go out and try to throw a 7-inning game or a 9-inning game, I've got to get my arm and body and everything in shape to do that. And, there's two sides to it. There is times for when you're fatigued that you need to rest, but there's also times, and I think as a young person, we have pitch limits in high school. I'm not a big fan of them. I'm not a big fan. I mean, a guy can throw 25 pitches a day. He can throw 25 pitches more. He can throw 25 pitches every day. But if he throws 26, he's got to set a day. Is there really that much difference? I think it's based off of each kid. Each individual sort of recoups better. We have some guys that, the next day they could throw 75 pitches the next day they feel fine. Where we have some that might throw 50 pitches and they need 2 days rest before they can really even throw it. It's just because everybody's body reacts different. You know, and at the big league level, you know, I get it. They've got millions of dollars invested in those guys, but there's also been this velo, and that's all that matters, and get away from pitching. And to me, that has caused a lot of arm injuries because everything they throw is max effort. You don't have to pitch at max effort. You need it in the tank when you need it, but it don't need to be every pitch.
You and I have talked a lot about this before, but unless I want to kind of shift from high school and major league stuff, but to more of a, you know, little league travel ball sort of discussion, and I want to talk to you about maybe some challenges that a parent has growing up with travel ball. And you know, you and I've talked about the tee before, things like that. Like there's a mentality about travel ball, there's a mentality about the tee, and so what are some things that you see as a high school baseball coach that may present some challenges for parents?
From the parent side is one. I mean, the name of it is travel ball. I mean, so you're having to travel. And instead of saying, hey, we're going to go down here to the local park and rec, wherever you might live, and we've got 10 teams, and we're going to play these 10 teams. And then at the end of the season, we might say, hey, we might have a group good enough that really wants to move on and play after that. But now you're getting your kid and heading out with him. And I'm talking this Little League right now, not even talking from the high school side, but from Little League. You're going to spend all day Saturday at a park, all day Sunday at a park. You know, is that very fun? You want me to be honest? Hey, what did you do all weekend? Well, I watched my son play 4 games at Albertville.
Right.
And we were there from 8 a.m. till we got home at midnight, and then we had to be back at 8 a.m. the next morning.
Yeah.
I mean, is that really what we want to do?
Yeah.
Or could you get the same thing out of, say, hey, all these kids are playing on all these travel teams. Why don't we just get teams together at the park? And there's some positives the way it used to be. There's some positives of travel ball. Don't get me wrong. But there's different travel ball. There is what a lot of people call travel ball is what we used to call, well, I'm in Sipsey, I'm coming to Jasper to play Al tonight, or y'all are coming to Sipsey. That's what they're calling travel ball. That's not travel ball. That's still just youth league inside our county. And the biggest thing with travel ball is there's no practice. They might practice once or twice and then it's play. Mm-hmm. They're not gaining any development. You don't develop in game, you develop in practice, and then what you've done in practice, you showcase in game. And to me, that's the biggest thing is the development process. Maybe learning some of the little things, and going back to the tee, me and you were discussing this other day. You were asking me about it because your son's at that small age group. The biggest thing to me, and it's like beating your head against the wall. I've told people when we grew up, we played t-ball. And what it taught you was how to defend.
Putting the ball in play.
Put the ball in play. Everybody on defense is getting the ball hit, and you got to catch it, and you got to make a throw across the infield. Nowadays, I'll go watch some of the little leagues, and it's either coach pitch, or at one point it was machine pitch, and 2 kids will put the ball in play, the 2 best kids on the team will put the ball in play, and everybody else is striking out. And so I think it's more of a detriment, and it's making kids not want to play. I mean, just like I said, hey, Dad, I struck out 3 times tonight, didn't even put it in play. Can I go do that again tomorrow? Right. I mean, it ain't all fun and games, but you do want your kids to enjoy what they're doing and have success, and throwing them out there at 5, 6, 7, 8, and all of a sudden saying, hey, we need you to hit this, hit this, hit this. you're not giving them an opportunity to be successful.
And I've told the parents it's not an embarrassment to hit off the tee.
No.
There's nothing wrong with hitting off the tee.
Now, Tony Gwynn made a good living hitting off the tee, and then would transfer it from the tee to the game.
Yeah, and you want them to have success. And to your point, is it more embarrassing to hit off the tee, or is it more embarrassing to whiff 3 times and then have to go back and tell mama later on? Talk to mama later on. I mean, it's just, So I think to your point, I think it's important to stay with it. Obviously from a practice standpoint, you can continue to implement it, but I just from my I just don't understand why there's so much an aversion to it at that level.
I can't answer that one. Me personally, I'd like to see T-ball.
Yeah.
Because I think it develops skills on the defensive side and the offensive side, because every kid puts it in play, he learns where to run bases and how to run bases a little bit, and everybody has a chance on defense to be a part of the defense, and you learn how to defend, and to play pitch and catch. You would not believe one of the most important things to baseball is as simple as me and you in the backyard playing pitch and catch. If we can do that at a high level, you can play defense and you get people out. But there's so many times I'll see a guy either not catch it clean, so he then has to hurry his throw, or he'll catch it clean and he hadn't played enough pitch catch in his life and been good at it. He makes an errant throw to first base, so it does no good. But those are things that are developed at a young age, and if only 2 guys out of 9 or 10, depending on how many you're batting in the little league, are putting the ball in play, what are you getting out of that? Has always been my question. As opposed to, if we put the tee out here, everybody's putting it in play and everybody's involved and active in the game.
All right, now let's talk daddies for a moment. And you've got an opportunity right now to where your dad is helping you in the dugout and just you're still coaching with him.
Right.
My dad's no longer with us, but I certainly have some indelible images from my childhood of practicing with Big Al. But I want to talk to the dads out there specifically, and not to tell people how to parent, but what would you say to a dad who has got a young son who's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that age group, about the importance of, encouraging his son, being supportive, because, hey, look, we're still human beings. And I know there's a lot of dads out there that are taking a negative approach toward their sons. And honestly, I think it ruined my baseball career. I mean, not to beat up Big Al, but I mean, I think it did a lot of damage to my sports career.
Right. The biggest thing, number one, is be there. If you can be there, they notice. That's huge. Just being there, noticing, and try to find. It's easy in the game of baseball to find something that you did negative. Easy, because it's going to happen. Game of failure. Try to find something they did positive. Talk about the positive. You might address the negative with them, but always end with the positive. Sometimes I feel as that as a coach, even with our guys. I'm going to, you did this wrong, but really, we did this right. And we hadn't done that right in a few games. I need to address that. But as a dad, be there, be supportive of them, and your relationship with your child shouldn't be based off of what he did at a baseball game. It's called a game for a reason. It's not baseball life, it's a baseball game. And through the years, that's what I've seen is dads try to get their self-worth or maybe they can walk into their business, whatever they might do for a living, and say, Al went 3 for 3 today. Well, they don't come into you when you went 0 for 3. Don't be embarrassed of your son, no matter how he performs, because that doesn't dictate who he is as a person.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I see is another thing I see is don't be outcome oriented, like I was just saying. Be, did my son run every ball out? Was he a good teammate? Did he, when he got out, did he go cheer for the next guy? That's the things that I wish I would see, as opposed to worrying about what you just did as an individual. This is a team sport. Learn the value of being on a team and how it helps with everything you do. You know, you can go 3 for 3 and been a dog that day. You loafed. You was a bad teammate. That has nothing to do with if you were good. That's what I try to tell our parents. Don't base your relationship with your child on how he performed in the game. If he's showing his tail, not hustling, being a bad teammate, that's things to talk about from a negative standpoint. But whether he struck out or whether he made an error, that you screaming and yelling at him isn't going to change it. He still struck out. He still made an error. As a matter of fact, sometimes you're tightening up, making him tighter and tighter and tighter, because as soon as it happens, I can tell the guys we get that's had that through the years, because as soon as they make something negative, their eyes, the first place they go is where's, and it could be mom or dad. It's, they want to glance at them to see, as opposed to if they never had that, if on the ride home it was, hey, I'd like to see you run down the line and maybe a little bit harder, but you did do this very good today. You would be amazed at how much better the relationship and how much more comfortable your kid is with playing. And that's through life. I mean, it's unreal. And I can tell you right the opposite. I can tell the parents who's done it that way, just how their kids react to things and how they do things.
I've done a lot of work on, you know, nervous system type stuff. That may sound a little bit bizarre that I said that, but I'm understanding more about our nervous system. And when a parent is being negative from the stands, and saying negative things, especially when a child is up to bat, you're not really creating a safe space for that child. You know, that the child can have safety. And to your point, I mean, I did it. I mean, it's such a mental thing to be up there hitting, you know, and if you don't have confidence and you don't have freedom when you're up there and you're worried about what a parent is saying, I mean, your nervous system is going to be going haywire, you know, while you're up there. So how important is it for a parent to maybe just either be encouraging or don't say anything while your kid's batting?
Yeah, don't say anything, especially don't try to give them advice. I learned that a long time ago as a coach. You do your coaching in practice.
Yeah.
If you're trying to coach a guy up while he's in the game, it's too late.
Yeah.
He's just got to show and go with what he's got. And then you might see those corrections, and when the game's over, say, hey, this is what we got to work on before these next few games to try to get this corrected. But hitting a baseball is hard. You're taking a round bat and a round ball, and you got to hit it square.
And you don't know what pitch is coming.
You don't know what pitch is coming. And then when you get up there, and if I swing and miss, and I'm worried about mom or dad or granddad or anybody, just one either belittling me, and then you have your peers. You know, when you're playing against peers, or heck, your girlfriend might be in the stands and you don't want to embarrass her.
Or if you're in an opposing, field, I mean, you got hecklers sitting out there too. I mean,
that's part of it. I love it when it gets like that. I really like that because then it shows to me a kid's true character.
Yeah.
Does he let that bother him? Yeah. Or does it just be like, I don't really care what you say. I don't bother. That's not going to change who I am and what I'm doing. Yeah. But you know, the biggest thing with parents, and like you said, go back to, not to brag on my mom or dad, because my mom been there right with my dad. They were there.
Yeah.
Is there times that my dad might have got on? Yeah, if I had a bad attitude or showed my tail, but I can't recall ever getting in the car and him saying, boy, I'm disappointed in you because you didn't get a hit today. He might not have ever said it, but it might have been the next day when we got up, say it was a Saturday, it was a Friday night, went 0 for 3. He said, hey, you want to go down to the park and hit? that's the way to handle it. To me, you know, is, hey, let's go work on what you might have had a deficiency in that game instead of me downgrading you, belittling you.
We need to wrap up. I know we're getting kind of long on this interview, which I could sit here and talk about this. We may need to do part 2 and 3, soon. But your teams always seem to play with a lot of passion. I think that comes from really who you are and your approach to the game. I know you're passionate about the game of baseball. I want you to talk about this team in particular. This is not your best team in terms of record, but every time I've come out to watch you guys play, they've played with a lot of passion.
Yeah, we've got 7 seniors this year, and to most of them it means a lot. We had a pretty rough year their junior year, and they have sort of took it upon themselves, and we talked about it as, what do you want to be sort of remembered as, and from the young guys, do you want to be remembered as guys that just showed up and went through the motions, or do you want them to remember you as a player, as a team, as a group that led by example? And I think for the most part, it's like anything else. We play a lot of baseball games. There's days, good days and bad days, but for the most part, our guys have showed up every day and they've gotten after it. One things we told them this year, I said, I don't care if we win a game, if we lose every game, I want us to run hard to first base. That takes zero
Bust
ability,
out there. Yeah.
zero talent. Everybody that puts it in play can run hard to first base. And I think that sets a tone for everything. If I can run hard to first base, if I just popped it up to the pitcher, or if I just ground it out, I can do everything with a little bit of fire about me. And that's what I want. That's sort of how I want our program to be. Is, it's no secret. We're not the most talented. There's been years where we've had the most talented team. Right now, we don't. So we've got to outwork them, got to outplay them, got to outthink them some, because baseball is a mental game. And sometimes it don't happen. Sometimes you run into a buzzsaw, and we've done that. We've run into a buzzsaw a few times, and you just tip your cap and go on. But like going back to the same thing, that don't make you a lesser of a person or a lesser of a player. Some people are better than you at things, and you just tip your cap and go on. And you know what? You just say, you know what? I'm going to get ready for the next time I face you and see if you can beat me again.
Yeah. Well, man, I really do appreciate it. It's always good to talk to you. And y'all got Hueytown.
We're at Hueytown Friday, here at Haleville on Monday, and that'll wrap us up for the year.
Well, good luck to you the rest of the year, and let's do this again.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.